Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another musical moment in the life of the old-time rock and roller. Today, I have the great pleasure of presenting the first professional musician that I started with in 1969 with the Boston Rock Symphony, and he is still performing today. The legendary blues harmonica frontman, Mr. James Montgomery. Pretty cool. James, I notice you have a lot of celebrity photographs on the wall behind you there.
Yeah, actually, I do. I take the thing over there, but
That's all right. I can kind of see it, the Hall of Fame there.
yeah, I got. Let me see. There's me and Billy Squire. At
Yeah.
one point, and there's me with Dan Akroyd, and me with George Harrison, with Patti LaBelle, Johnny Winter, of course, Johnny Lang, um, and a lot of people. Um, yeah, there was one time I was saying, I was Max Ann was one of the greatest DJs ever in Boston at WBCN. Max Ann Satori. I think Billy were living together, and I was going, geez, I can't believe I have to audition guitar players, because as soon as the guy walks in, if he's right or wrong for the gig, you know what I mean? The guy walks in, you go, nah, this guy's not going to be right. So Billy says, you know what? He says, I'll just join your band until you can find the guitar player. I said, great. Now I don't have to audition. And so Billy was my guitar player for 6 months.
Wow.
Until Paul and Art came along. And actually, I put Billy on a couple of shows that we did, a BCN benefit and everything. And he told me, the most fun I've ever had in this business is when I played with you and when I played with Ringo.
Really?
And I said, sure. When the stroke was out and you were making millions of dollars, and he says, no, because I had to think about things all the time. And I reflected about my time with Johnny Winter. I had a great time with Johnny Winter. I didn't have to solve any bad band problems.
Right.
I just had to play harmonica, and that was it. I didn't have to worry about anything else. So anyway, yeah, and there's me and Akroyd. I had a band with Alex Taylor, James Taylor's older brother, the world's longest band named James Montgomery, Alex Taylor, and the East Coast Funk Busters. Who are you gonna call? Funk Busters. And then I ain't afraid of no funk. And so Paul Schaefer and Dan Akroyd actually joined that. They joined my band.
Unbelievable.
Joined the Funk Busters, and we did a Canadian tour, and then eventually they made me a blues brother on a couple of tours with them. But then George Harrison, I got to spend 3 days in Boston with George Harrison because my brother John was vice president of Warner's. And they looked through all the ranks of everyone at Warner Brothers when George Harrison signed his Dark Horse label to Warner Brothers. And if everybody at Warner Brothers, they picked my brother John to get on the plane with George and travel around the country to promote that record. So he was in Boston for a few days, and of course, I studied ancient Hinduism, the Rig Vedas. So I spent a few days with George, and all we talked about was the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and Radha and Krishna, and so we had a ball. And Patti LaBelle, there's another. I'm just looking at some of the pictures behind me. Patti LaBelle sat in with us, and her manager came to me Not her, but her manager came to me and said, Patty really wants you to go back to the hotel with her. And I took one look at Patty and one look at me, and I said, man, she's going to eat me up and spit me out, man. I said, that's too much woman for me, man. You know, I was married at the time, and I wouldn't have done it anyway, but just the thought of Patty LaBelle was such a dynamo. I mean,
Man.
her level of intensity is like, like plugging yourself into like a power grid, So yeah, so there's a lot of pictures back there over the years. It's been great. I've met so many people, had the opportunity to play with so many people. If you go to Wikipedia, there's a partial list that's got about 50 people on it. But
Yeah, it's incredible, man. You're one of the hardest working men in show business. And I think you've got a great business acumen, which has helped you through the years. When we used to play back in the day, we'd go through Connecticut, I think it was New Haven, and play shaboos. You remember that?
every time people come up and ask me, do you remember the Shabu? I always say Shabu. Yeah, yeah, it was a nightclub in Connecticut. Nightclub in Connecticut. Yeah, yeah, remember it had the big tower. I played there 268 times. Lefty and I actually got out the books one time, and we went through like a 3-year period, and then we extrapolated from that and figured out that because when they booked you there, it'd be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was never a one night stand,
Right.
which would be great too, because if you came in on a Wednesday, Cotton might be playing there, and then you could hang out with him and not even have to work.
Yeah.
Or Bonnie Raitt would play there. Me and James Cotton were and the Fabulous Rhinestones were the house bands. So we played more than anyone else. But for you listeners to understand how great this nightclub was, they booked Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Miles Davis, Aerosmith, The Police, Bonnie Raitt, Dr. John, Papa John Creek, um, Muddy Waters, Coco Taylor. In other words, everyone from Miles Davis to Coco Taylor to Aerosmith to The Police. There's never been a club like that ever.
No.
Ever. Booked such a variety of acts. And as a matter of fact, they got The Police for $27. The Police needed what Roxanne had not hit yet.
No.
They needed a pickup date between New York and Boston, so they landed at the Shabu, which was midway
Mhm.
New York and Boston, and they did it for a door deal, and it was the last night of the World Series. So Sting is pacing up and down. He doesn't know what the hell the World Series is, He's facing. When can we get started? We really want to stop playing. He's going, Sting, you can't go on. The game isn't over yet. So of course, in those days, nobody went out to a bar to watch it, especially a music bar. Everyone went to everyone's house to watch these games. So the door deal ended up $27. And so that's what he paid Sting, made out to Sting, and he still has that canceled check. But the Shabu was like the greatest nightclub ever. They're actually doing a documentary about the Shabu, and I did an interview with them for that.
Now, there was a time you were down at Mohegan Sun, the casino in Rhode Island with Steven Tyler and some other folks. I think Sam Moore was performing.
Yeah, that was Dan Aykroyd's 50th surprise birthday party, and it was at Mohegan Sun, and I played his 30th surprise birthday party at his parents' farm out in Kingston, Ontario. The highlight of that afternoon was me and Bill Murray trying to learn how to get up on jet skis when they were difficult. These ones they have now, a kid could ride them, but back then it took skill. Anyway, I had been on the road with the Blues Brothers, and at one rehearsal, Danny added to the band. It was the Blues Brothers with the real guys, with Duck Dunn, Steve Cropper, Matt Guitar Murphy, Bones Malone, Lou Marini, all of them, Paul Schaefer, and so so Akroyd added Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Albert King, Carl Perkins, and Sam Moore to the band. Added, so those are the guest stars. And when Sam Moore did his rehearsal, after every, I think he did all Otis Redding songs. After every song in rehearsal, all those seasoned veteran musicians put down their instruments and gave him a standing ovation at rehearsal, and the whole crew at rehearsal.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there at Aykroyd's 50th birthday party, and everyone's there, supermodels, everybody. And Pamela Anderson was supposed to jump out of the cake in front of the band, and gosh darn it, she missed the plane because I was looking forward to that. But anyway, although I was dating the Lamborghini model at the time, and I was in pretty good shape. But anyway, so I'm sitting at a banquet. Me, Steven Tyler, Peter Wolf, and Jeff Peabar, of course, one of the great guitar players of our time. So Sam Moore's up there singing, and Elvin Bishop was in the band, and James Cotton was in the band, and so Sam was up there singing, and Valerie Simpson, Ashford, and Simpson are there. So Valerie Simpson comes over and grabs a mic, and they start singing back and forth. And all of a sudden, there's like 500 people at this party. Everyone stops their conversation, is glued to this performance with Sam Moore and Valerie Simpson singing back and forth. And when stunned, Sam Moore looks at us and says, "Does anyone else want a piece of this? Does anyone want a piece of this?" And I'm sitting right next to Steven Tyler and Peter Wolf, like I say. And Steven jumps up. He says, "Yeah, I do." Now I'm watching Steven Tyler go up to sing with Sam Moore. And I had been at a rehearsal where I'd seen Duck Dunn, Steve Cropper, McIntyre Murphy, Paul Schaefer, everybody give him standing ovations after every song he sang. And I said to myself, as Steven was going up to sing with Sam Moore, I said, "Steven, I really hope you know what you're getting yourself into making this move," right? So he gets up there. Sam goes here. Steven goes there. Sam goes here. Steven Tyler went toe to toe with Sam Moore, the greatest soul singer on this planet, and kept up with him. And that's when I said, you know what? Steven Tyler is the best singer in rock and roll. Because as good as Freddie Mercury was, and as good as these guys, what's his name, Steve Perry, or whatever, the guy from Journey or Foreigner, one of those guys. I toured with Journey and Foreigner. I was so much into R&B. I'd watch one of the songs and go find an R&B nightclub in whatever town I was in. So that's when I figured out that I'm not sure that those guys who were the greatest rock singers ever could ever have gone toe to toe with Sam Moore, but I saw Steven do that. And that's why I consider him the greatest singer in rock and roll.
That's a great story.